Coming up on 8:45, back with a live shot from Century Plaza Hotel and Spa. Some big news this week about Canada's food guide finally changing. Desiree Nielsen, registered dietitian, joining us, and there's a big theme of this change.
Yeah, the future is plants. Apparently, it's official now.
The future is now, and the 4 food groups has had a big makeover here.
You know, and it's something, there are some really seismic shifts. I mean, not much moves in nutrition, and it's been a really big week because we've always had these 4 food groups, and now the dairy group has been rolled into a new protein group. So dairy foods, animal proteins like eggs and fish are also alongside plant proteins like tofu and legumes, and in fact, it's explicitly stated that there is a preference for plant-based foods, including protein. So Canadians need to eat more plants.
And less about serving sizes, more about just filling your plates with the good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's so relevant now because I think as much work has been done on the Canada's food guide, this idea of like, how much is a serving? How many servings should I have? When I look at my plate, is that a half cup? Is that a full cup? Now you look at the plate model. Half your plate should be covered in fruits or vegetables. A quarter of that plate should be covered in a protein, and a quarter of that plate should be covered in whole grains. So it's really easy, no matter how big your plate, no matter how you like to eat, it's really easy to eyeball and say, do I have a balanced plate that's going to sustain me, energize me, and keep me nourished?
Oh, so this example right here, I mean, obviously we have the traditional salad, but wheat berries, is that going to be the new big thing?
I think they should be, particularly with a focus on plant-based protein. We talk about quinoa all the time, but in fact, wheat berries, they're Canadian grown, they're very filling and hearty, and more protein per half cup than quinoa. So yeah, it's a great option.
And other healthy examples you've brought too?
Yeah, because oftentimes people ask, like, so what is a plant-based protein? And this is the only place where the lack of serving size might confuse people. Because do you put just a sprinkle of walnuts on your plate? Is that enough? No, it's not. You really need a sizable portion. This is tempeh. This is how much tempeh you would eat to replace meat. For tofu, it would be about 1/3 of a block of tofu to replace your chicken or fish at a meal. And then you need a good hearty 1/2 to 3/4 cup of beans in order to add a substantial amount of protein to your dinner in place of meat.
And these over here?
So we have hemp seeds. This is one of my favorite Canadian proteins because this actually only takes 3 tablespoons to add 10 grams of protein plus a whole host of omega-3 fats to the meal. So you can sprinkle it on your oatmeal, you can sprinkle it on a salad. It's really easy to use. I think what this food guide is going to do is bring a large amount of awareness to the importance of plant-based eating for personal health, but also for sustainability. The other thing that I like about this food guide is that they say it's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. Being more mindful of your eating habits. Are you always snacking in the evening in front of the TV? Are you mindlessly munching or not planning your meals, being hungry and then needing fast food, to cook at home more, to eat together as opposed to in isolation. So it's a really holistic viewpoint of what it means to eat well and have a good relationship with food.
And with the relationship we've had with dairy over the years, I guess what's your final take on that shift towards dairy being such a major component of the food guide, shifting away with more plant-based options?
You know, I think it makes sense. This is the first time that Health Canada promised that in addition to looking at evidence, they would not be looking at industry comment and influence. So this is our first truly evidence-based guide, and the evidence clearly states that eating more plants is beneficial for us. And when you look at the history of the food guide, we saw that it was about promoting Canada's agricultural products. So it made sense to talk about dairy as a major industry. However, there's no biological reason dairy is in its own category vis-a-vis fruits or vegetables or whole grains or other proteins.
Who do you think will be impacted the most with the new change up here?
You know, I think oftentimes so many of us who are healthy, they're already kind of following this path, so we're like, great, I'm glad they caught up. But it's really the government facilities, schools, daycares, people who are really influenced and have to adhere to the guidelines set out by Canada's food guide that will really make change. I also think this will help just kind of swell the cultural shift because now it's official. We should all be eating more plants.
And a lot more plant-based options definitely will be out there. Desiree, thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Do we get to eat this now? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, we got some pie over there too, so it's the best of both worlds. We'll take a break.